Welcome back to another sky-high aviation video. In today's video, I'm going to be doing a tutorial on how to take the IniBuilds A350 all the way from cold and dark through to takeoff. So I'm here in the A350-900 by Emirates at Dubai International Airport, and we're going to be flying up to London Heathrow today. So starting out, when you enter the aircraft, it should be in this state, cold and dark. And so the first thing we want to do is come up to the overhead panel and see if external power 1 and 2 are available. So today they are at the Dubai International Airport, so we'll turn both of those on. And you'll start to hear the aircraft come to life. All these white off lights will start to appear, some things up here. We're then going to turn on battery 1, 2, battery emergency 1 and 2. We're going to get our crew oxygen supply to the on position and then align our IRS-1, IRS-2, and our IRS-3 to the nav position. I also like to just turn on all of the fuel pumps right here. Then coming down here, we're going to get the APU master switch to on. Wait about 3 seconds or so, and then we're going to hit start down here. Alright, so that's everything with the overhead panel just for now, but we'll get back to it shortly. I'm now going to head down to the EFB electronic flight bag down here. Now, I am using SimBrief and Navigraph today for this flight. SimBrief I definitely recommend. It is a free dispatch system to create flight plans. If you do not have Navigraph, some systems won't be available here, but ChartFox is also a great free alternative to Navigraph just for some charts. Now I'm going to head over to Flight Ops Systems and just get a SimBrief import. Right here we're Emirates Flight 465, going from Dubai over to Heathrow today. Going back to the Flight Ops menu, we'll now go into the options to just discuss a few things. Moving down to third party right here, you are going to want to input your SimBrief user ID if it's your first time flying the aircraft, as well as any other third party applications that you may want to use with the aircraft. Then down to simulation, just a lot of different settings to look through here and whatever works best for you. I'd also go to aircraft here, where there's the IRS align time. I have it set to instant because I just don't really like waiting around. And then some other things for you to look at as well. But again, this is all really up to your preference and what fits best with the hardware that you're using as well. One other important thing that I think I should mention is also the throttle calibration tab over here. So this is great to calibrate your throttle just so that it can work well with the aircraft. Okay, so next we're just going to swing up here and check that the APU start is showing available, which it is, so that means we can get the APU bleed on as well. Now we're going to head down to the flight management system down here. This should be the page that it shows you with your aircraft, the engines. I'm going to go over to Init. Now this aircraft's great because on the Init page, it shows you just about everything you'll need. Down here is kind of the order that you're going to want to go in. So starting up in the Init page, I'm going to do a company flight plan request using SimBrief. If you don't have SimBrief or don't want to do this, you can also type it in manually, but I just find this easier. So our flight plan has been received. We'll insert this, and you should see it populate everything here. Perfect. Just going to clear some of the messages down here. None of them are really important. Next, the IRS. You won't really have to do anything here because the aircraft already knows where it is. Perfect. Over to departure and checking SimBrief. We are going to be taking runway 30 right, and we're going to be taking the SEMP2 Foxtrot here. Let's just scroll down. SEMP2 Foxtrot. Perfect. temporary flight plan, and insert. If you know what your arrival is going to be, you could also input that right now, but I'm not going to do that yet, and I'll just head back to the init page. Now if we look at our flight plan, we can see that we have got this right here, which is going to be our departure. Now it is also a good time to check the METAR for your airport. If you're using VATSIM, you can use the ATIS or whatever you use to get the METAR. I'm just going to search it up. The current pressure is 1002, and also on here I'm going to make sure I set this to live weather. Okay, 1002. I'd also recommend setting this on the right side, just because you'll get an ECAM message if they're not the same. Alright, so back down to the flight management system. Navaids you also will not really need to do anything with, and we'll head down to our fuel and load. Now back over to the EFB where we'll go to our load sheet. So this is very useful with SimBrief, just SimBrief import. And there you are. Shows your zero fuel weight, fuel load, a lot of different things. You can set the zero fuel weight, and you can set the fuel, either instantly refuel it or realistically. I prefer to instantly refuel it, but whatever you want, of course. So from here, you can go down to the FMS and type everything in manually, going back and forth, or you can just click here and then click enter, 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 and that auto-populates it. Very easy to do. So again, if you've done the load sheet over here and you've imported everything, you can just come down here, go to zero fuel weight, click on the box, and then click enter 3 times. And that'll fill in all 3 of these boxes here. For the passenger number, you are going to want to look over. We have 324 passengers, a full flight today. When typing into this FMS, you can either type using the number pad keys down here, or if you hold left control, you can type using your keyboard as well. Very useful. So we'll enter 324. Perfect. Now, we'll go to our takeoff performance here just to finish this up. And again, nice and logical. So, takeoff performance down here. And we can sync FMS. Sync. Again, very easy. It populates everything for you. Now, you can choose your different options for the weight. I'm happy with this down here. And compute. Perfect. So here are going to be our takeoff numbers for our takeoff performance, and we're going to want to hit send to FMS for the easiest and most straightforward way to get these over. So if you look down here, as you see, sent those speeds over. If you'd like, you can check that. 141, 148, and 152. Perfect. So we'll confirm the speeds, and that will fill in everything for our takeoff performance, which is great. So we want to head back up here. We've got fuel on board, so we're going to want to get those seatbelt signs set to the on position. No smoking to the on position. The emergency lights should be armed, and the no mobile also set to auto. Now some other nice things you can do in this aircraft. You can go over to the checklist menu, which has some nice digital checklists. So these are the cockpit preparation items. Checklist complete. Additionally, surveillance here, which will allow you to control your transponder here, enter a squawk code if you are on VATSIM or using something else. Another tidbit for VATSIM with the radio, in order to tune the frequency, you want to turn VHF 1 on right here if you're on VATSIM, so that's just important to know for that, but we're not going to be flying on VATSIM today. So our squawk code, we'll just set it to something random, like that. We have TA, RA, and normal right here. Perfect. Now I'm going to go and bring up our Navigraph charts here. I'll just make this a little bit smaller. So down to our airport here, if we look at our standard instrument departures and look for the SEMPA to Foxtrot right here, we can see that we are going to want to be climbing out. We're going to be taking this right here, and initial climb is going to be 4,000. Alright, so we'll put 4,000 into the altitude box as well. Now if we look down at the ECAM, we have a destination EFOB, which basically means we're not going to have enough fuel as the aircraft would like us to when we land. So if I check our block fuel, we're at 12,000 kilograms, which is definitely way under what we want to be. This is a long flight to Heathrow, just over 7 hours, so 12,000 will definitely not cut it. If we head over to our load sheet, we'll just set the fuel again, instantly refuel, and that's complete. We should have 51,000, perfect. So yeah, a little error with the fueling at the start of the flight, but always want to be checking that ECAM over here, and we'll go back down to our fuel and load, and we are just gonna do this again. So again, we click here, enter, 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 boom, and now you see the destination EFOB is gone because we've got the fuel that we should on board right now. Alright, so we are looking pretty good right now. Back up to the overhead. The APU bleed is running, which means we can turn off these external powers. Now we'll go back to the checklist. Before start checklist here, this is going to be after we finish our pushback, and that means that we are basically ready for our pushback clearance now. So using the Navigraph charts, which I find very useful, if you zoom this all the way down, you'll see ARPT map loading, and then a map of the airport that you are at should appear in just a moment down here. Alright, perfect. There it is. So we can see, I'm going to change this to, that was good. Alright, so there we are. We can see we're at Sand Foxtrot 2-4. Now if we view it out a little bit more, we can see that we're going to be taking right here, runway 30 right. If you don't like using the Navigraph charts in the plane, of course, you can just go pull this up here and see where you are right on Navigraph. So we are going to want to be taxiing down to runway 30 right, so we're going to want to make sure we push back with our nose facing to the left here, so that we can taxi down to 30 right. So I like to use a third-party pushback tool that is free on flightsim.to, but if you do not want to get that, then you can also go to ground and use this pushback machine here. So we're going to disconnect the GPU from the aircraft, make sure all the doors are closed here. There's a little key up here, so we're all good. And I'm going to call for pushback. Alright, so we've completed our pushback. We're ready for our engine startup now. So we're going to head down here to our before start checklist and check over here. Our parking brake is set, takeoff speeds and thrust are set, our slides are armed. Beacon, we're going to come up and turn on right here. And our nose wheel disconnect memo, we're good on that as well. Checklist complete, and we're going to send this back to the performance page for our takeoff. So engine startup, we're going to come down here, turn our ignition there, and then start with engine 1. Alright. Okay, so we can see our engine is available with an N1% over 20, so engine 1 has had a successful start. We'll reach down now and activate engine number 2 as well. Okay, so our engine number 2 also shows available, N1% over 20, so we're all good with the engines. We're going to take that off the ignition and turn it back to norm. And then head down here, back to our checklist. These are really helpful just to make sure you didn't forget anything. So our anti-ice is on. We'll do a flight control check in a moment, and we're not using any ATC services, so the ground clearance we're good for as well. For flight controls, take your side stick or your yoke, whatever you're using, and if you just start moving it, you'll see over here the flight control panel show up. So I'm going to go full back, and you'll see over here that changes. Full front, left here, you'll see down here that changes. Right, perfect. And then rudder is up here, so we'll go left rudder, right rudder. Alright, great. So it looks like our flight controls are also checked. Checklist complete. And then we have one more small checklist, which is our taxi here. Our flap settings, we'll make sure that we put that down to 1. And radar is good. Alright, so we'll head back to FMS 1. I'm going to make sure up here that I turn on restraints and terrain as well. That will show up here once I get off of this map after taxi. And then we'll see our takeoff checklist show up right here. So while we're about to taxi, we'll arm the spoilers by just pulling those in. Put this to RTO, and we'll get the cabin ready and do the takeoff config test a little bit later on. So if you're on VATSIM, you'll receive your taxi instructions. For me, I'll just do kind of the most logical way to get to 30 right. So let's begin the taxi, release the parking brakes, and start the taxi. I'm going to turn this back to arc and a little bit smaller. Okay, Perfect. Again, this is a very large aircraft, so you just want to take it slow on these taxiways. Make sure you're coming into the turns nice and slow. And you should be good. Doesn't need too much power to taxi. Depends on how heavy you are, of course, but it really is a nice aircraft to taxi and a very, very easy aircraft to fly in the sense that, you know, it has a lot of automation, and you see in the setup a lot of things where you can just auto-populate different sections of your FMS or your EFB, which is very, very nice. Alright, so we are approaching the runway. We'll reach up and just hit the all button to dig the cabin. And then I realized a couple things that I forgot during this taxi, so I'll just do them now. Taxi light should be on nose, and then also the APU can come off after the engines have been started. Totally forgot to do that, but make sure you do that. So onto the runway now. We'll line up, coming in at a 90-degree angle, and then just turning over that center line like this. You can slow it down a little bit, and then just coming through the center line here, just like this. And I'm not too good at lining up the aircraft myself. Definitely takes a bit of practice and something that I'm still working on. So it doesn't have to be perfect. You don't want to use up too much runway trying to just get it lined up. So I'll reach down and turn that parking brake on. Down here we have takeoff config test, so we'll make sure we come down here and hit takeoff config. Just push that button. And sometimes I've found that it does not really work down here, but okay, there we go, worked that time. Again, sometimes a little confusing, it doesn't work sometimes. Now we're gonna head out of this map here and zoom back out to like 40 nautical miles is where I like to be for takeoff. Sometimes 20 is good as well with these constraints so that you can kind of see them a bit better. And then we should be good for takeoff. On the takeoff roll, some important things to note. You want to have a bit of downward pressure on the side stick all the way up to around 80 knots, and then let go of that. Rotate is just going to be a nice, easy pull up, and then follow those flight directors through. So we're all good here. We're going to set the thrust up to about 45% N1. So you can see that right over here. A little bit too far on engine 2 and a little bit too little on engine 1. So right about there is good. Doesn't have to be perfect. And then come down and release the parking brake. And then set those engines to flex. 2 notches forward. And there you go, you hear him come to life. Just light rudder adjustments, keep it on the center line. Alright, and there's 80 knots. 100 knots. We're at 120.
V1.
And rotate. Alright, gear's going to be coming up. We have a positive rate. Pulling up all the way to that flight director at 15 degrees. Perfect. Come on down a little bit now. And passing 1,000 feet will engage that autopilot. And you can see the lever climb. So we'll bring that down 1 notch and bring it back to lever climb. We'll see thrust declimb up here. The auto throttle is engaged. Passing this green S, we can pull back the flaps once the speed surpasses this S. And there we are. Flaps can come on up. And the plane will now climb up in management to 4,000 until we are cleared up to a higher altitude. So that's pretty good, and that is a takeoff out of Dubai here. Something I also did forget was to turn on the lights up here to take off and the landing lights on. So make sure you're doing that. But other than that, that is how you're going to want to take off the IniBuilds A350 all the way from cold and dark up through the takeoff. And the same applies basically for the A350 1000, just a little bit longer, so you have to handle it a little bit differently. Thank you so much for watching. I'd really appreciate if you left me some. And yeah, that's how you take off the A350 by IniBuilds from cold and dark all the way through to takeoff. The same will basically apply for the A350 1000. It's just a bit longer, so some things to note when handling it. But other than that, I'd like to thank you a lot for watching the video all the way through to the end. It really means a lot to me. And if you have any feedback for me, I'm sure I did things wrong in this video, please let me know in the comments, and also let me know if you'd like to see another tutorial for this, maybe from cruise to landing, or if you'd like to see me do a flight on VATSIM, maybe. But yeah, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.